Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Zoom into Wine. It's time for the show and your host, Ian Blackburn.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me tonight for our Wednesday Zoom into Wine. We're looking at Oregon Pinot Noir this evening, and I want to thank you guys for joining me, either watching this live or on our future YouTube posting. We've got a really nice response tonight, so we have a nice big audience. We're going to be drinking some amazing Oregon Pinot Noir. Let's get started. Hopefully everyone got their tasting kits okay. Our delivery guy was stretched to the maximum capacity today, but I think he made, the category of Oregon Pinot, especially here in California, you could feel this momentum continue to grow in the importance of these wines. The amount of news that we keep reading about, further investment, further acquisition, consolidation, big brands buying important vineyards and elevating the category continuously. And it's been a growth category for a long period of time, growing faster than the category itself of Pinot Noir. And Oregon's really become a major player, not just in the U.S., but internationally. We're getting a lot of attention. Just was introduced to some new wines from Oregon, made by a South African brand. That's not abnormal. We've got Burgundians in Oregon. We've got people in California bringing grapes down from Oregon, trying to be a part of this culture of Pinot Noir. 700 wineries now in the state's arsenal, and most of them are up and around Portland in the greater Willamette Valley wine appellation. And this took some time. They got started early, about 50 years ago. Guys like David Lett and Charles Corey were the pioneers of the region, and it took some convincing. But all of a sudden, the early 2000s, we see this explosion of interest and investment. And now we're looking at almost 20,000 acres of Pinot Noir. There is some expansion now into other varieties, believe it or not. The Chardonnay category got a little bit devastated years ago, but now it's really bouncing back hard with a new style. And certainly the Burgundian investment here has really helped secure Chardonnay and Pinot Noir as being primary, and Gamay Noir is growing quite a lot of interest as well. When we look at the Oregon wine regions themselves, there are a couple. We always think about the place and then the geological features that kind of shape the place and why is it a good growing area. As we look at Willamette Valley, we're obviously in the great north west. We're close to the ocean. There's mountains there that protect this region. There are deserts to the extreme east. There's a lot of jokes about how much rain Portland gets. That's pretty optimal for Pinot Noir. Southern Oregon's also coming on with some really different focus, not necessarily Pinot Noir. A lot of beer, a lot of agriculture, a lot of different grape varieties. Willamette is really focused on Pinot Noir. In fact, a lot of the rules are set up so that Pinot Noir can succeed. Things like 100% grape varietal on the label. In order to call it Willamette Valley Pinot Noir, it has to be from Willamette Valley, and there are a couple of recent examples of wineries that have tried to push that issue, and they have done a good job of protecting the Willamette Valley.
Hey, Ian, just a quick question. Will we get these slides?
If you like them, send me an email and I'll send you the slideshow. No problem.
Thanks.
My pleasure. So we're going to taste 4 wines tonight. I'd like to actually encourage you to taste all 4 of them before I cover what they are, so you can form an initial opinion. If you have 4 glasses, it's really a fun way to taste, to compare and contrast instead of just going one at a time. If you don't have 4 glasses, there's use 2 and just kind of do the back and forth, because you'll see more and appreciate more if you can compare. And we didn't waste anybody's time. We definitely focused on some great wines. Let me just show everybody the event before I reveal which order we're tasting in and all that stuff. Go ahead and get set up if you haven't already. But I'm going to take you into the Zoom into Wine page. Let's see if that gets me there. That should work. And you can see what we've got coming up and things. And then here's our Oregon Pinot event. And tonight we're going to taste 4 wines. Bergstrom, the Cumberland Reserve, 2018. The Purple Hands Winery, Freedom Hill, 2019. Halcyon is a brand that I got to know about a year ago. I've got 2 of their wines. I think it's really going to be a great showing for them tonight, because who the heck are they? Very few people have heard of them, but I think tonight's going to solidify. They're certainly an exciting brand. And Domaine Serene, classic producer, lots of esteem. And this is their Evanstad Reserve, always a bankable, long aging style. And that's what we're going to see here too, is that we've seen Oregon kind of move away from the hey, you've got to buy these wines and wait 10 years before you can drink them model, into something that's a little bit more balanced. I still think they have incredible ageability, but they also now understand that a little more ability to enjoy these wines younger will help the category. And I think that they have been achieving that balance for a long time. Just before I continue, I just want to show a couple folks here some of the great stuff we are working on, and we're keeping pretty darn busy right through the month of April posted here. We've even got May and June events if you go on to the next page. But if you're into Pinot Noir, at the end of April, we just are about to announce the Stars of Santa Lucia Highlands. This is going to be an incredible gathering, and we do the Stars events on my Wine Cloud. We do them with a charitable partner, and we've got 6 awesome Pinot Noir producers coming together for Santa Lucia, including Pizzoni, McIntyre, Bernardus, Rath, Roar, and Cru. And these are all Pinot Noirs from Santa Lucia, and the vintners are going to be live on the Zoom with us. That's how we do it on Stars events. And Stars events take my entire army all month to produce these things, but in April we do 2 of them, so it's going to be particularly fun month of April. We're going to have Italy, which has got some awesome wines on it as well, and the vintners are coming on board, and we're getting them all lined up, from Antinori to Tosca la Amarita, over in Brunello de Montalcino, Padera, La Ripi, Avionesi, one of my favorite families, getting involved there, and Paolo Scavino in Piedmont with a spectacular Barolo. So really looking at some really fun events there. Back to our regularly scheduled program. Let's get into the wines and compare and contrast some of these babies. And hopefully you're just going through it glass by glass. I'm actually surprised I have any wine to drink, because we did sell this event out, and I was hanging these bottles upside down in the glass to get every single little ounce out of them. Love what's happening in number 1. Great balance of deep, dark, dense fruit, very unfined, unfiltered. I got all the unfiltered part in my glass. I don't know if I get to drink that. I might chew it.
Hey, Ian, question.
Yeah.
What do you find is the best way, as you're tasting multiple wines, to kind of cleanse your palate in between tastes so that it's fresh?
I honestly think these wines have so much acidity that they kind of cleanse your palate for you. I'm not sure I would need any food here, but if I had my druthers, some nice smoked salmon would be nice. You got any of that laying around?
I have no food. I have food. Water is the choice. So
Yeah, I would just stay with water. Stay with water. But Pinot Noir is pretty food friendly, pairable, and I could have it with so many different things. I love Pinot Noir with smoked Gouda. I think it's really a fun pairing. But all kinds of smoked fish, and red flesh fish like salmon, maybe even a peppered tuna, any kind of bird, whether it's turkey, chicken, duck, lamb, all kinds of stuff goes with Pinot, and some of these get very recipe specific to promote some of these subtle tones that we're going to get. Wine number 2, I'm not giving away the brand yet, just kind of tasting it and exploring it. A little more fruit bouquet, a little more dark brown spices. Pinot Noir, just signature Pinot Noir. You kind of start, thinking about the fruit, red cherries. What color is the cherry? Maybe even black cherry. Is it kind of a fresh, crispy cherry? The fruit spectrum, pretty red, seeded fruit. You might sometimes get into some exotic strawberry type of things, but it's in the cherry spectrum. And then you get into the spices, and you got how much clove. Is there stem inclusion to bring in even more spice? Literally picking the grapes with the stems, putting them in the tank. Is it 100% stem inclusion, partial stem inclusion, destemmed, no stem inclusion? And these type of things help structure these wines. Number 2 is a little bit more ripe. It's got a little more kind of volume. Knob is turned up a little bit more, and I really smell some of that impression of the ripeness in number 2. And it's got a kind of a nice weight to it. Number 3, there's a little more stemmy character in there, and really pretty architecture to the wine, just really nicely built, and elements there all in balance. Some really wonderful symmetry and nothing too bold. A little bit more I'd say in touch with its kind of its earth and its stem, and it's that kind of element more than a fruit orientation. Wine number 4, and we are tasting 4 very good producers. Number 4's got a really nice kind of toasted vanilla character to it. You really can pick up on some of the quality marks of the wood. Okay, let's reveal and talk about the wines that we're tasting tonight and get your opinion. I would love for you to be on the Zoom, telling me what you like, what you don't like, because I like them all. They're like my children, and these guys, I could drink any one of these wines with great pleasure tonight. Let's see what you think. Now, the first wine that we're tasting is from our friends at Purple Hands Winery, and a friend of mine, Bill, represents this brand, and he brought it into me, and I'm like, Bill, I've got like 9 Oregon Pinot Noirs. There's a lot of them that are up around $60+. I'm just, I'll taste this wine, but I'm not so sure. And I put it in my mouth. I'm like, send me some. I gotta have it. Love it. I love the styling on this wine. These guys are, they've just got wonderful plush drink me now, which is probably missing from my wine library, because these Oregon wines do tend to reward, putting them away and kind of hands off. I don't think this one does. I think this one's like saying, we're doing everything we can to give you access here, keeping it really raw, natural, And stylistically, that's what I've got here. Just showing off all the, this thing is unfined, unfiltered. So I got the very bottom of the bottle. But
back to the map. Where is Freedom Hill? Like, where would this one have been on the Willamette Valley map?
I will tell you. Let's get into the slide. I think it tells us there in a second.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's watch this quickie here, and I think this is short enough that we can watch the whole thing.
We are Purple Hands Wines, and we create wines from the Southern Barossa. The core ethos is really that hands-on, that real artisan winemaking, right from the vineyard through the whole process, making your decisions about how you're going to blend, what wines you're going to make, what wines you're not going to make, and then actually taking them to market and being able to tell that story to people. It's just
I think these guys are making wines in both continents, and this video is very specific to Barossa. We got the wrong video up here, so I'm going to pass on that and go on to the next slide. And here we've got the vineyard practices of making Pinot. You're looking at hand harvesting Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir is really a thin-skinned grape variety, and it is not going to allow you to get the kind of quality that you need to make world-class wine if you want to machine harvest it. There are machine harvested Pinot Noirs. They tend to be volume. They tend to push price points down towards $10, $12, $15. But these guys are definitely doing it in an artistic style. Here's the Freedom Hill Vineyard. Let's see if I can dial in on that note here. Yeah. Freedom Hill Vineyard is located in the foothills of the Oregon Coast Range towards the western edge of the Willamette Valley near Elamity AVA. The grapes from Freedom Hill make their way into the wines portfolio of some of the most esteemed artistic wineries in the Willamette Valley. "94 points, James Suckling, his review. This has a beautiful nose of blood oranges, sour cherries, cranberries, rose hips, and wild mushrooms. It's medium-bodied with silky tannins and bright acidity. Sleek and supple and transparent. Delicious earthy notes on the long finish." Anybody tell me how your Pinot's treating you?
I love it. It smells amazing. Just the smell of it, and just it's complex. And I love the earthiness, and it's lovely.
I really like that note, blood oranges. Can you pick that up?
I picked it up only after he said it.
Yeah, and me as well. This is not something I normally pick up on in this category, but I bet we see more of it as I pay attention. But that cherry spectrum here, sour cherry, I think it's a good call. The cranberry, definitely. And I really think this wine does a great job of capturing kind of that freshness and brightness and the fruitiness without losing the kind of high-end character that we want and need at this price point. It definitely has a wonderful balance. It's mostly about the fruit intensity, and I'm just really impressed with this wine, top to bottom. I like to drink it now. I definitely say the window on this wine is long. These wines have great ageability and great things to come, but this one's already showing this really fun drink me now type of style, and I think that's to be rewarded. Wine number 2.
So if you, Ian, if you look at ageability and if you look at it now, in aging, what do you think the flavors that will develop most in 5-10 years from now would be?
Well, they're kind of like volume knobs. And
do they all turn together?
Well, no. When you're looking at a young, fresh wine, you typically do get the fruit elements in the first couple of years to be more present. As those start to pull back, you start to see the other levels kind of coming into the equation, adding maybe another layer of complexity to the wine. The having the wine approachable and fun and fruit oriented in the beginning allows customers to enjoy it now. It's almost like having 2 wines in one, or maybe 3 wines in one. The first wine you meet is this young, fresh wine, but as it kind of matures and moves into kind of an adult state and puts on a little bit of wisdom and starts to show some of that character of place, and then you get all this integration. You could potentially get into the third wine state of mind, which is a wine that's a little bit more integrated and really kind of plateaus at a level of balance and sophistication. And that's what these wines try to achieve with the great fruit quality that they have. And this one just is pulling it off really well as a wine that allows you early access. Now, some of these wines aren't even going to try to be that early access player. They're just going to go straight for shut down until ready. And that is another approach. And, kudos to the winery for being able to achieve another phase, because I think that makes people even more excited to be able to drink these wines young and then to see them mature into, more adult level wines, more wise, more wisdom, just kind of following that thought process of aging like a person would age and moving from that state of baby fat to, full state, educated type of state of mind.
Do you think we are trending towards people learning to age wine more?
Honestly, the answer to that question would be a no. I think we are rewarding people to not age wine. And I think that it's a very small part of the wine world. Well, first of all, when you start slicing up the pie, you're looking at a very small slice of people that even pay more than $15 for a bottle of wine. Boom, you're automatically down inside of 10% of the population. And you get even smaller and smaller as that price point gets higher. And then you start talking about aging wine. The audience is getting pretty small pretty fast. And, do you have a place to age it? Do you have the money to age it? Do you have the patience to age it? All those things test the wine marketplace. And frankly, if all the wine in the world was made to be aged, nobody would care about wine.
Yeah.
It's such a small wine world. So I think we need both. I think we need to have some of the wines be able to achieve that kind of higher aspirational gear. But that's why there's wines like these that excel and you have to pay for them. And then there's the other wines of the world that are not this expensive, and then there's that other category, the stuff that we're not drinking, that's even 5 times as much as these.
Right.
So the audience for wine is pretty finite and pretty but it's special. This is an audience that is working hard and this is a beverage that requires a little bit of passion to really enjoy it, and patience as well. So let's move into wine number 2 and get some.
Well, can you remind me what the vintage was for number 1?
I'm sorry, what was that?
The vintage for number 1?
Oh, that's right.
2019.
Yeah, that's the 19. That's
Thank you.
And I want to do something while I have you here. I just talked to my salesperson, and he was able to get me another case, so I'm going to make sure that is available, because I think this wine sold out today, and I want to make sure that that's not the case on the website. So I'm going to
Lovely.
Yeah.
Even the empty glass just smells amazing.
Good.
The nose on that.
Yeah. It's really, really cool.
Mm.
Yeah, there's now 12 available, so if you're interested, it's there. It's not a very large production, very proud to have it, and we have a very good price on it, and you all that are participating have a 10% discount on bottle 1 if you want it. So use that discount code, and I would also encourage you to think about getting up into Oregon and going and visiting this beautiful place. I'm going to try to do that this summer myself.
I have one more question. Sorry. So they make wines using the grapes, and it sounds like they also sell their grapes, and those are inputs into other wines that they call artistic expressions and things. So wondering, like, what % do they use to make their own wines, and then what % do they sell, if I read that right?
That would be a more advanced question that I am not aware of, and I pretend. But if we looked at their website, I bet they give you a little bit more of a glimpse. But it's a pretty small production, I can tell you that. They, the only wines that they make are pretty high end. So I'm going to guess that their grower operation's probably bigger than their winemaking operation.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to move into another esteemed brand. This brand's been around for a while and always been shaking it up. I think they've been quite a bit of the force behind making Oregon wine a little bit more approachable early. They've been rewarding customers with a little bit more delicious, fruit-oriented styles for a while. And this is a brand that's really got some great ethos, wonderful long-term positioning, thinking about the marketplace. And they just picked up Wilson Daniels as their distributor nationwide, and it's going to be a big switch for them. They've been family owned and directed for a while, and now having a powerhouse distributor force like Wilson Daniels, who distributes wines like Domaine Romanée-Conti and a lot of the fine wines that I like to get involved with, Domaine Loire or La Flave, and some others. They really have a fantastic portfolio and a really good team nationwide. I just went to a tasting of Torres wines, which they represent from Spain. Really, really top portfolio. So you're going to see some nice things happen with Bergstrom, and the wines have always been there. They are taking place in a couple different AVAs because they have now grown in the number of wines that they're making. But today we're tasting the Cumberland Reserve, and this is from their estates that they have in Dundee Hills, Chehala Mountains, Ribbon Ridge, and the Yamhill Carlton AVAs. And on the front label it says Willamette Valley as their AVA, but that's the composition. 100% Pinot Noir, and it is a blend of whole cluster and destemmed fruit, 12 months in 10% new French oak. This is kind of their entry level as well, and they do make some higher tier efforts. I think sometimes when you pay more, you get a wine that maybe even requires a little bit more patience, but their scores are also a little higher, so you can see quality all the way up and down their portfolio. Number 37 in the top 100 wines of 2020. That's a pretty nice mark from the Wine Spectator, and Parker also gave it 94 points. And let's talk about this wine before we get into wine number 3. This one, I did drain the bottle, but it is fined and filtered, so I get to drink this one. You just see in the color and the extraction that they're getting here, the depth in this wine. It's got a really pretty mouthfeel to it. It definitely reminds me in the front of Oregon, in the mouth, like Burgundy, and it's really got a wonderful richness to it. So really pulls off kind of a chameleon-like Pinot Noir, kind of New World, Old World. It's got both edges to it. And because of their quality vineyard holdings and their practices in the vineyard, and I told you this is their entry level, this is kind of shows you how really great a brand they have put together and their commitment to quality. This isn't much less expensive than any of the wines in the lineup. I think it's right there in price point. But let me just confirm that price here. Go back just a couple slides. I got it on that first slide. $44.95. So almost $20 less than the two wines that it's sitting next to. So pretty significant savings there, and a really nice bottle of wine in the $45 range. Any comments before we move on to wine number 3? Got a lot more comments on number 1. I'm wondering if that's because you liked one a little bit better.
Yeah, I liked one better.
Ian, number 2, the Bergstrom, this seemed almost like heavy for a Pinot Noir, and that. Is that how they make them at Bergstrom, or?
I think they just have a little heavier approach. I think the word heavy is good. I think it's got some weight and some. I think it comes down to how they extract color. I think how they are working the grapes. It's definitely got a little bit more depth. Maybe it's a little bit more pressed fruit in this wine too. That gives you increased color concentration and a little bit more of that throttling power. But I like the way it presents itself, and price point, it's considerably less money per bottle, and so it's really fighting a good fight. That's a lot of wine for the money. Let's go into wine 3 with a Halcyon and a Apocrypha. Does anyone speak Greek? Let's find out what that means. I'm going to put that into my Google engine and see what that says. To hide away. Works outside an acceptable canon of Scripture. Canon of Scripture. All right. The artist that makes these wines, I have been able to taste with him on Zoom in the past, and he's got a fantastic resume. So let's get into the brand a little bit here for a second. Todd Alexander, who worked for the Bryant family in the Napa Valley, moved to Oregon and Washington. His primary project is called Force Majeure. And when I was talking to him about Force Majeure, which I have one of their great wines in my store, he brought out some Pinot Noir, and I was really floored. And he said, "This is my first wine, wait till you try the second." and I have bought all of them. So I really like his style. I'm really excited about what he's trying to do. I think it's a small opportunity. I can buy his wine and be an important part of his world because not very many people have it yet. Not very many people have learned about it yet. It's still kind of building his own reputation. He knows how to source vineyards. He knows what he's looking for. He loves finding the different accents and really toning his wine style to the vineyard. And he's not afraid to take some risk, and he's smart enough and educated enough to apply that risk and his knowledge together to really come up with some amazing results. I don't know if you could find a more beautiful sloped vineyard anywhere. It looks pretty opportunistic to me. 14.5 acres, 800 feet above sea level. And he knows how to take those volume knobs and twist them and turn them a little bit. The two Pinots that I've got are quite different from each other inside of his brand. 93 and 95 points from Jeb Dunnick. There's a more upfront sweet nose of mulberries and blueberries. The other one, by the way, can't pronounce that one either, has a full stem inclusion and is really wild in, that stem, the wood of the stem really gets involved in Pinot Noir, and winemakers pay a pretty tough price in the fact that wines with stem inclusion really require a little bit more patience and time, and so it really it's hard to sell those wines until they're 4, 5, 6 years old, and so it's a tough business model. But if you like this one and you like stem inclusion wines, I would encourage you to try his other wine. We'll take a look at it on the website before we're done. But this one here, just a little bit more juicy, and mulberries and blueberries as well as violets. There's that orange zest again. And
yeah, I have a question about that. Mm-hmm. This is the third Pinot that we taste where it was blood orange. The second one was orange zest. This one is orange zest as well. Where does that come from? Because I haven't seen that in any of the other Pinots that I've tasted from other regions. Is this specific to Willamette, or?
I think that's what we're going to find as we get deeper into the Willamette and what they're expressing and why it has the appeal that it does, is that it does play off of that. When I started tasting wines in Sonoma early in my youth, and someone said, whenever you smell orange zest, you can predict that the wine is coming from Carneros. And I was like, wow, really? And so I found that in the wines of the Carneros, often, whether it was Merlot or Pinot Noir, I got that orange zest there as well. And so let's pay attention to that as we go forward with the wines of the Willamette. And I do say it's definitely a marker that we're discovering live in person right now. In each of these wines, you can really smell that orange. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like if you were a mixologist and you were making like an old fashioned, you had
bitters,
muddling your orange peel into the glass, or you were maybe taking a lighter and bending the orange peel and lighting it. These are the type of aromatics that we're getting. It's really, really a beautiful nose on this wine. I'm going to go onto the website and just show you.
That one's great. Love it.
I'm glad you like it. Me too.
Smells amazing too.
So for those that have not shopped on the Merchant of Wine website, I use that little Q bar in the front, in the corner, and I just put in what is it that I'm looking for, and you can get, you can just keep typing. I can even type his name in there and find the wines that he's made. Let's just do that. That didn't work. It allows me to do it on the back of the house. Why didn't it allow me to do it on the front? I'll find out later. Maybe I spelt his name wrong. That would be the reason if it was. But let's see. Here are the two wines. There's the wine that we featured in the Stars of Pinot last year, and I think he was really excited about this one. 500 cases made, by the way. But the other one that he makes, a lot more stem inclusion in this wine, and really had kind of a visceral reaction during the tasting, because a lot of people didn't know what to expect with stem inclusion. So it does take a little bit of explaining, and it kind of comes off as like dried herbs and stem and this kind of tea-like aromas, if you like that. So this one's the one that we're tasting tonight is definitely more fruit oriented. It does have some stem inclusion, but not quite the same profile as the other. And we have a little bit more of this one remaining in the house, but they both got big scores, 95 points. When you look across my Oregon selection in general, there's so many gigantic scoring wines, and I wanted to use like the Soder 97 pointer, but I only have a couple bottles left and I can't get any more. And then the Ken Wright Shea Vineyard, and so lots of wines that are big performing wines in between 50 and 80 bucks a bottle. And I'm always looking for good value. Right now, the Stringtown is my under 20 wine. The wine from Resonance is one of the best-selling wines on our website at around 30 bucks. This is the Louis Jadot offering in Oregon Pinot Noir, and I carry both 2018, which is their main production, and their 2015 Estate Single Vineyard Reserve, which is pretty darn glorious, and only a few bottles of that remain. This is my new addition here from Beaufrere's. They've got the new Cousins, this kind of a declassified Beaufrere that you can get under 40 bucks. So I'm trying to find a few more wines to kind of bring down my average price point, because I got a lot of expensive Oregon stuff on there. Okay, let's go back into our Zoom and taste wine number 4. Last but not least, Domaine Serene, Evenstad. This is the big bad boy in the room. They have definitely been a huge mover in the shaping of Oregon Pinot Noir. I don't know if anybody's gotten more awards at the highest end, top 100 placements, etc. Let's take a look at the video and learn a little bit about these guys. Should be kicking on with some audio, but it's not. You guys can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Let me see if I open it inside of YouTube, if that will change. Let me see if I can get that to go. Apologize, one more moment. I'm going to change my speaker. have a feeling it's because of Zoom, and I have another challenge here in my office. I have a beautiful sound system that I have plugged into my computer, and it popped yesterday and doesn't work anymore. So because I'm in Zoom, it's not letting me hear the video. So something I'm going to have to fix. But I'm going to send you guys this PowerPoint, and you can I can also send you the YouTube
link,
and that way you can watch it on your own, and I'm sure your computer will not give you as many problems as mine is giving me right now. Here comes the link, everybody. I apologize for that. But let's just take a look, because it's a beautiful video just to look at as well. Not sure if any of you have been there before. I have yet to step onto their physical property, but I have been to Willamette Valley on numerous occasions, and their estate is very significant, and they have been acquiring and making some really big moves over the past 20 years to now be one of the more important, larger producers as well. Not a volume producer by any means, but you know, a lot of very good wine is coming out of this property, and they don't make anything that they wouldn't put their name on and have a lot of pride behind it. I've tried their Chardonnay with incredible success, and their Pinot Noir. I think I've carried every vintage for the past 4 years in one moment or another over the last couple of years that we've been around. When we look at the vineyard spacing, you know, this is something that we're really paying attention to now because of water conditions. Not, you know, everything's dry farmed here. You get a good amount of natural rain, so they don't have to irrigate. And so by spacing out those vines, putting enough spatial competition, but not getting them so tight that the water pressures are too difficult, this vineyard can thrive even in a warm, drought-like condition and produce some really nice wines. So one of the steps that they take, they cold soak before fermentation, allowing the berry flavors to develop at cooler temperature, slowing down the activation of the yeast, allowing that fruitiness to really kind of be expressed in the grapes. You know, they're picking these things in very barely ripe levels. They want to capture enough acidity. They want the fruit to enter into fermentation and stay at a nice cool temperature to maintain the freshness of the variety, not have oxidation occur during fermentation. They are selecting their yeast strains, trying to really identify the yeast that creates the type of nose, mouthfeel, and finish in the wine that is very patent protected with Domaine Serene, kind of their style. That is a winemaking choice. Some people are much more open to allowing nature to select the yeast. But if you have a brand and you have a style that you really want to promote, they may be picking a particular strain of yeast from, say, Burgundy. Maybe it's Pommard, maybe it's something like that they really want to focus on with a particular type of result. So the wine that we're trying, the Evenstad Reserve, it is a selection, and that's a branded name, Evenstad. So they're able to really identify certain markers in the wines and blend them together to create a particular accent in the reserve wine. They certainly have the aspiration to make this wine ageable and to have it achieve a certain structure and stature that is among the elite wines of Oregon. They are also invested in this concept of zero tolerance against TCA, kind of delivering you a guarantee of satisfaction. If you have a corked wine, send that bottle back to Domaine Serene, and they're going to actually get paid by the cork company because they put an insurance policy in place of zero corked wines. They do a lot of testing of their cork to ensure that is going to be the case. So if they find a corked wine, the cork company will actually reimburse them for the corked bottle, and therefore they'll be reimbursing you either with a replacement bottle or monetarily repaying you for your purchase. And that's something I'm seeing a few high quality estates really getting into. It's not everybody yet, but it's starting to be a bigger thing, because if you're going to put a really nice cork in the bottle, that cork manufacturer probably should stand behind it, because they are charging a lot of money for the cork. Here's their significant estate. 142 acres, 84 of those planted. If you're getting 3 tons per acre, that's a 240 tons. It's 12,000 cases. That's a good amount of wine for a premium wine brand. "95 points, James Suckling." Ripe, spicy, and glossy nose with biscuity aromas, as well as a very vivid red and dark cherry note. The palate has a very plush and elegant feel with silky tannins that unfurl with rich, spiced red fruit flavors. Anthony Galoni, deep, glistening scarlet, ripe, spice, and smoke-tinged aromas of black raspberry, cherry cola, musky flowers on a perfume nose. I haven't seen anyone mention any citrus in this one, by the way.
I know. Yeah, I saw that.
Juicy red and dark berry liqueur flavors are braced by a core of smoky minerality and a pickup allspice with mocha nuances with aeration. Concentrated as
Sorry, I'm not sure about that.
I think that was Siri kicking in.
Yeah, that was my Alexa going off. So sorry.
Concentrated. I knew that voice, but concentrated as well as lively with no rough edges, and a sexy floral quality that emerges on the persistent finish with rounded tannins, lends to shape, and a gentle grip.
I don't know where he gets the black raspberry. I have never seen a black raspberry in my life. I don't even know what that is.
Ah. Maybe it's just a level of ripeness in the raspberry. I will say that the nose on this wine is the most restrained, I think, in the entire lineup. It is telling me the alcohol here says 14. that is potentially higher than some of the other wines, like our Halcyon wine is 13.2 on the label anyway. The Bergstrom 13.5. And the Freedom Hill from Purple Hands is at 14. So potentially, and it's so small on there, that might say 14.0 or 14.4, I can't tell. But potentially this is one of the riper wines in the lineup, and that just may be the product of the vintage.
Hi, Ian. I have a quick question for you. Good evening.
Hi there. Good to see you.
Hi, good to see you. You know, this, from all the ones that we tasted, for me, this is the most elegant wine. To me, it's equivalent like a Premier Cru or Grand Cru from Burgundy.
Yeah.
Why is that having more alcohol, it tastes, you don't feel the alcohol. It's very smooth.
Well, the alcohol between these is even a point difference between 13 and 14 is such a small window. In fact, you know, in the eyes of the law, you can be off by a point, and some brands just don't even want to change the label, and so they're always going to be 14%, because then if you create one that says you're 13.9 and the next one says 14.2, some people think more alcohol is better. And so, you know, staying pretty consistent is an important part. Of course, this one now, it says 14.5 on my tasting note on the website, so that would be the higher of the wines that we've had here. But I also think that that's just the way this wine is presenting itself. You know, the 14.5 is not high alcohol by any means at all, and it's being supported. I mean, it would be a lot of alcohol if there wasn't any matter there to support it. You know, you wouldn't want to have huge biceps and no other physique on your body. You'd look a little weird. So you got to have all of the other muscles in tone to even support 13% alcohol. You could smell, wine could smell hot and be 13% alcohol if it didn't have that support. So this has got everything in good proportion. I think it's the most, like you said, elegant. I also think that inside of elegance are words like restraint,
Yes,
elegance and balance and subtlety, nuance, things like that are, I think we're seeing that play out in this wine. I also think that this wine is in its kind of infancy, as opposed to some of the other wines showed a little bit more aggressiveness out of the bottle, kind of maybe built for a little bit more pull the cork and enjoy type of a moment, whereas this brand makes no bones about it. They're making a wine that has kind of a longer term, you know, slower type of a presentation. They're not in a hurry, and that's why they get a good amount of support from the press, and every year they have that type of approach. So this is the wine that the press kind of look to define the category of fine wine, and it's also a wine that carries a price point a little bit above the rest. I want to just take a look at my website. Let's go here. Let's see if I still have other vintage available. Just 18 at this moment, okay. So that is the $77 wine, but if you went onto Wine Searcher, I don't think you'd find many people under $80 on this wine, and we carry a very good price on it. I like to sell my wines. I like to move the inventory over, and we work a little bit thinner than a lot of places. On Wine Searcher, you probably will see us, maybe not the number one lowest price on any particular wine, but I bet you we're on the first page and towards the top of the category. And in many wines, we are the lowest price. I work really hard to buy smart and buy on opportunities, and work my suppliers pretty hard, because I'm an online store and I've got to deliver the wines at a good price. And if it's a new wine, I got to have the right price to be able to get people to try it. So some wines I just can't buy. There are wines I wish I could carry, to be honest, that I don't, because they're carried by every retailer, and there are no retailers making any money on them, and I can't put my money into those wines. That is the truth. But there are wines I wish I could carry, and it's just about finding wines that allow us to have success, and there's a lot of those. I can't buy every wine I want to carry, that's for sure. But we're now at 800 wines on the website. And when I started this website, I thought, first, I'm only going to carry 50 wines. It's going to be 50 wines. They're going to be the 50 wines I recommend. Of course, we weren't a retailer at that point. We had this little behind the scenes type thing with our store. The pandemic brought that out, and that's all I could do during the pandemic was retail wine. And so we stepped on it. I said, okay, let's go to 100. And then quickly, like 200. All right, 500. We're going to be, and in fact, all over the internet, 500 wines you won't find in the grocery store. Well, we're at 800 wines right now. And I'm sure there's a few of them that are in the grocery store, but they are not grocery-oriented wines. And we love finding little gems. Some of them I can only buy a case of, because that is my entire allocation. There's so many wines that are like that right now that I get one case. That's it. And I really think that the wine industry is going to be up against some very interesting pressure as this year continues. I cannot buy champagne. There is none. I get offered, it's a boat arrives, a container comes in, and it's gone in a day. I don't I ask everybody, can I buy 10 cases? Can I get 10 6-packs? No, I get 3 6-packs. And I have waiting lists for some of the champagnes that we carry. I have to let people know when they come in. They never even hit the website. So it's Do
you think it's because people are drinking more because of the pandemic?
No, I think it's because the world is, I think the pandemic certainly helped clear the shelves, but we lost so many vintages in the past 4 or 5 years between the wretched 2021 flooding of France that wiped out Champagne. 2021 Champagne is devastated. And because they use those stocks, to make their non-vintage wines, to keep their supply chain, they had to just stop selling wine. And then and that didn't stop in Champagne. It was all of France in 2021 really had some problems with supply. All of New Zealand in 2021, all of California in 2020. You had fires like crazy. Remember Australia? It was like a giant flame for a while, and so all that's adding up to having some serious shortages worldwide. And unfortunately for a lot of us, wines are going to get more expensive. There's already a lot of other reasons why they're getting more expensive. My friend tried to import some wine out of Italy. The cost of the container from Italy to America went from $5,000 to $15,000 for one container, and the wine that she's importing was kind of like a $10 wine. How do you spread that increase onto $10 wine? You have to take it to $13, $14 just to afford the shipping. So it really does impact the wine industry pretty greatly. Gas prices to shipping prices to labor, it hits wine pretty quick. And so we've got friction from lack of supply and friction from elevating prices of moving the wine. And those things are going to create some pressure for the business. Good news is we'll just stay very nimble and continue to find different opportunities, because there are wines being made all over the world. Really loving the quality that we're seeing out of Mexico, out of Argentina, Patagonia. And I think wines from other parts of the world can come out and get a little bit of recognition right now. I have friends that are making wines in Texas and Arizona, and they're talking about trying to bring their wines into California. Can you imagine that? California is usually the last market for wines like that, because there's so much wine here. But it's starting to change, and the wind, the wind's changing directions a little bit for the business. So fascinating lineup of Pinots. Hope you guys enjoyed. We're going to continue to elevate the quality of the wines that we're showing off at these tastings and our Stars tastings. And it's fun for me to be able to taste with you guys and be able to taste them side by side. It's really fascinating glimpse of the category. I'm forever going to be looking for orange peel and orange, blood orange in my Willamette Valley Pinots going forward. Certainly something to look for.
Yeah, and you don't decant this wine for a long time, right? I usually decant my young wines for hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, if Cabernet or Syrah, but not a Pinot, right?
Well, you know what? You got the tasting kit right today.
I did.
That's what's great about those little decanters. They are really working well. I actually think this is a perfect example. The wines show better out of those little 2-ounce jars.
Yes.
Than when we first opened the bottle. Some of these wines, I poured them out of the bottle directly tonight. They were better out of the jar, because the amount of oxygen that these wines are getting is just enough. It's like it's being decanted into the jar, and then we close that jar, and it's just a slow micro amount of oxygen to be able to let it open up, and they're lasting pretty well. I had a customer miss the tasting last week, and they watched the video on Saturday and opened up the jars, and the wines were still really good. That means they were in the jars for like 5 days. Your set was poured probably, if you got the delivery today, we probably poured them this morning. But if you got delivery from UPS, I corvened them out of the bottles on Monday and mailed them Monday night so that they'd arrive Tuesday or Wednesday. And they're all showing great. In fact, the set that I tasted this morning was from Monday. So I think these jars really work well for what we're doing, especially with high-end wines, especially with the fact that we're probably the wines that I'm going to be showing the most are younger wines. I'm not so sure that if I were to do this with like really old wines, that this type of idea would hold over. I wouldn't want to put a 40-year-old wine through this type of torture, but it's great for these younger wines. Well, I thank you guys for letting me speak to you about the wines and for your great questions and for the participation. I hope that you guys will come back and see us again. If you're not on board for Baja next week, and if you haven't tasted the wines of Baja, I highly recommend it. That the wines of Baja are not trying to be California wines. I think they're much more oriented into the European mentality. Even though, with that being said, there are some really ripe characteristics on some of these wines. but they really, one time I got to go to Baja, I got to taste with a very influential winemaker named Hugo de Acosta, and I asked him, what is the grape variety that's going to make Baja wines really pop in the wine world? And he said, most perfect thing, he said, the wines in Mexico are a mosaic, and the blends that we're going to create are going to be the representation of Baja. And so that's what we see kind of coming in, you know, wines blended with Zinfandel and Nebbiolo and Syrah and Cabernet Merlot, and they have so many different grape varieties, and I love the ideas that they're putting together. And also on our Zoom next week, we're going to have some very important winemakers, legends actually, that have been involved in the Baja wine scene for a very long time, and that's what's really cool, being able to share with them. And they'll be live on the Zoom with us, so join us for Stars of Baja next week. It's going to be really interesting, and 6 wines, super cool, very proud of the quality. I think you guys will enjoy.
I have a quick question. Are those wines bigger? Like, I personally love a bigger wine, and I've been trying to get into the Pinots. It's hard to find a really big one. I feel like either 3 or 4 was like the biggest out of the pairings that we had tonight. But with the Baja wines, would you say those are, I mean, all like a Zin and Merlot, those definitely sound like bigger wines?
I'd say that there are wines that appeal to the person that likes bigger wine, for sure. Definitely you'll find that in them. But then there's also a lot of European ideas in their production. So I think we do a good job next week of having a kind of a nice assortment. They're not all the same mentality. Also, what's kind of amazing is that the Baja wines, while not cheap, I think they achieve very good quality at a good price point. They're really kind of all nailing, you know, right around $30 a bottle. And I think that's a really comfortable price point for the quality that we're seeing. And so I think they're delivering a value proposition. And are they for everybody? No. But I think that there's a much bigger audience than most people know. And I will say, from our standpoint on our website, they're taking some ground, and the amount of the wine that we are selling and the interest level that we have. The more Baja wines I have on my website, the bigger percentage of sales that they're representing. They're taking ground. I have about a dozen wines from Baja now, and whites are kind of something that I've been slow to take on. I really have been impressed with the reds, but I'm starting to see some whites that are getting my attention too, and they're getting really involved in natural winemaking processes, and I think we're going to see a whole wave of not necessarily natural wines, because I think that they avoid that, but they're natural processes, sustainable processes are becoming just intrinsic in their culture of winemaking there. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you guys and meeting some of these producers and getting your feedback. I think you'll really enjoy it. Thanks again, everybody. I hope you had a good time, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.